Hello again, everybody. My name is the Riddler, but you can call me Devel if you like. And today I am going to put out a video about the not so new phenomenon sweeping the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about some goddamn Dungeons and Dragons. Anybody who knows me knows I love me some D&D. I think it is absolutely amazing. But the real reason that this is a video that I'm making right now is the fact that as of recently, and we'll talk about what I believe the cause is in just a minute, but as of recently, for whatever reason, Dungeons and Dragons has just goddamn erupted. Dungeons and Dragons has gotten huge. Nowadays we have voice actors playing it. We've got Rooster Teeth's playing it. We have Pro Jared and Commander Holly playing it. I could keep name dropping, but I probably shouldn't. We have a whole host of people who are now playing the wonderfully nerdy tabletop RPG. And what is the reason for that? And the answer, if you ask 7 different people, you'll probably get 5 different answers. Like it's a very odd thing that's no one can seem to really pinpoint. So here's personally, this is just my opinion on what I think it is. But first, I'll start with when I started playing D&D. There are a lot of people who come from like old D&D who are far older than I am, who played like third edition and 3.5 and even second edition or like advanced D&D and shit way back in the olden days, before computers and happiness. But I think I didn't get into Dungeons and Dragons. God, I haven't been playing D&D for more than 2 years at this point. Sometime in the summer of 2014 is when I first started playing Dungeons and Dragons. And this is actually a half dirty, half shameful secret that I have, but I have actually not played any edition of D&D except for 5th. And that's a statement right there that will get you crucified at some tables. I think 5e, I say this having never played another edition, as someone who came into Dungeons and Dragons completely fresh, I think 5e is extremely user friendly. I mean, the first time that I ever played D&D, it was just me and one of my younger brothers, and I had a starter set rule book, and I mean, I understood it straight away. Granted, I had spent some time watching the wonderful D&D show Critical Role, which we'll get into in a second. So I had some kind of grasp on it beforehand, but nothing. I had never played it, so I had never gotten a really on-hand experience. So that's kind of my history with D&D. It's not a long history, so to be fair, it wouldn't be too crazy for you to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. And I very openly recognize that I could be wrong about this, but I personally think that the recent explosion of Dungeons and Dragons has to do largely in part with the acceptance of nerd culture, kind of. I think a lot of people can kind of agree that nerds have kind of become an in thing, for lack of a better term. The whole culture of being super into something and being super committed to something and knowing everything about something and all that kind of stuff, from Game of Thrones to sports or what have you. It's really just become kind of a thing that everyone's not only accept but embraced almost, and which is good. There are some people who are who kind of have a chip on their shoulder, like, where were you people in high school? But I think it's good that everything is kind of being it was a shitty move. It's kind of being accepted now, and a lot of people, a lot of things. What's coming with that is that a lot of things that people just kind of wrote off as, oh, that's for nerds, is kind of being re-examined and brought back into the fold. And one of those things is Dungeons and Dragons. And it's kind of this thing where slowly but surely people realized, holy shit, this is pretty fucking cool. And which brings me, of course, to Critical Role. Critical Role, it sends my heart aflutter. I love that goddamn show, you guys. That show is so good. It's what originally, I had actually heard quite a bit about Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons was just a thing that people had, told me about because it existed before it exploded. Lots of people played it, and it was just kind of a thing that, everyone had told me that if I played Dungeons and Dragons, I would like Dungeons and Dragons. Lo and behold, they were correct. But Critical Role first attracted me, I think the same way that it attracted a lot of people who were already interested in Dungeons and Dragons. Because the whole idea behind Dungeons and Dragons, for anyone who really wanted to be into Dungeons and Dragons, you've of course thought about getting really into character and like doing a special voice for your character and all that kind of things. And I'm sure you've seen like the community episodes and what have you, and all kinds of things to where it's kind of common knowledge a little bit that doing voices is a thing that is not even, trust me, as someone who's played a couple of games of D&D with a couple of different groups of people, it's not even something that happens on purpose all the time. It's just kind of a thing that like you definitely like hear this if you fleshed it out well enough. You kind of just hear this character speaking and you're saying it for them, but they sound a certain way in your head and you just kind of make that voice. So the idea of professional voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons was just kind of like, how could this be bad? Like, how could this possibly go wrong? And for me, when I first started watching Critical Role, I started on the first episode. When I started watching it, they were on about episode 15. I'm all caught up on the show, but I'm not going to give any spoilers if you watch it, so don't worry about that. But when I started on the first episode, I was like, okay, so I like Dungeons and Dragons. Voice actors are awesome, so this should just be a win-win, honestly. And fuck me running, dude. That was I fell in love with Critical Role when I first heard Matthew Mercer slip into his dwarvish voice, like his Irish kind of thing, like, oh, what do we have here, lass? Oh, we've got a couple of people trying to get in the Kroghammer. And it's like, when I heard him slip into that voice, I was hooked. Like, immediately, I was 100% in. I was like, this is going to be incredible. And I don't think a single episode has ever led me to believe otherwise at all. But that's a very alluring prospect when you have professional actors and professional voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons. It kind of adds to the whole thespian side of it. It kind of enhances the roleplay side of it, because everybody everybody loves to smash things regardless of what form it comes in. I think the intimidating part to a lot of people is the role playing part. I think that that's the hump that a lot of people have to get over, is the idea that, oh, I'm going to have to like talk with people and like make social decisions, and there's going to be espionage and all of this, and I'm not really good at that. And I think that that kind of scares people off. So to see people who act for a living, like it's their job to be thespians, and they are thespians, most of them at their core. It's it's kind of like, okay, it's essentially, it really is, to me, Critical Role. One of the first things a friend of mine in high school pointed out to me, he said, so it's like professional D&D. And I was like, you know what? That is a perfectly, that is a perfect explanation of what it appears to be like on the surface. That's a totally perfect explanation of it, because it really is like watching professional voice actors do a planned out story with characters that have been fleshed out over multiple years. And it's just like a giant exercise in improv, and it's really, really incredible to watch. And Matt's a great storyteller. And so I think with that drawing so many people in, I mean, a live night of Critical Role can get upwards of 10,000 viewers, like a strong 10,000 throughout the entire night. And I think they've gotten, by themselves, they've gotten the Geek and Sundry channel countless subs, you know? And it's just kind of this thing where people saw it being played, and it was just kind of, it was kind of like, I think personally, because this is definitely how it was for me, because even up to the point where I was watching Critical Role, like when I started watching Critical Role, I still wasn't like, you know, I still wasn't 100% sure on D&D. I was like, you know, I might play D&D at some point. Like if someone asks me, sure, I'll play it with them. But I wasn't, when I started watching Critical Role, I still wasn't 100% in on the idea that I would play D&D. But I kind of just, for me, Critical Role sealed the deal. I was like, yeah, I have to at least try this. There's no way that I can just try this. There's no way that I can see this and not at least try Dungeons and Dragons. And I think personally Critical Role had that effect on quite a few people. I'm kind of running low on time here, so I'm going to cut this video right here. But I'm going to pick up right where I left off in another video that should be up very shortly if you look in the related video sections. If you have any comments or feedback, leave them down in the comment section below. If you want to get those comments directly to me, you can tweet them to me at itstheriddler. The link for that is down in the description as well. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and hopefully I'll see you over in the next video. Bye.